Thank you all for joining. Today I will be representing how to use Artifactory as a Helm repository to store charts. So little bit about myself. So I'm Jainis, working as a solution engineer at Debrief. Basically focus more on providing solutions to partner and communities, where I do both integration and solution for some integrations. So thanks. So talking about what we did, so basically we created an Artifactory user plugin to use our Artifactory as a Helm remote repository. Basically to proxy and cache all the charts from Google storage, where you store all your incubator and stable charts, right? So now when we talk about, let me just go a little bit back and mention that we are talking about using Helm to install charts or run services pods in Kubernetes. So this is the link to my plugin. So let me just so this is my plugin. How you can install the plugin in Artifactory and use it as a Helm repository. So going back now. Next question is why we do it, right? So definitely JFrog believes in a universal approach for software development. That's why we support and manage all the different kind of packages, be it npm, Bower, Docker images, Ruby gems, Cocoa Port, Debian, Composer, which is a new addition, and we are more excited to have Conan, which is a C++ repository. So that's why we want to include Helm repository in Artifactory as well. Now, definitely Helm is a great package manager for Kubernetes. So providing support for Helm, it's it's the highest priority for us. So and definitely I will appreciate your feedback on this integration, and if you suggest anything to improve, we will definitely take it and improve it. So now, how does it work? So as you all know, or you will be familiar, or Helm, you can use that to install charts, which are basically a configuration of starting up pods into Kubernetes, right? So now when we use Artifactory as a Helm repository, basically instead of downloading your all charts from Google storage, now you will be able to use Artifactory as a Helm repository to download the charts and install it in Kubernetes. So let's see that in action now. So what I will do, basically I will start Artifactory as a Docker container, and then I will install the plugin. So I will just quickly show you how it works. Right, so starting Artifactory is a really quick thing. So by using this command, I started Artifactory Pro as a Docker container running on pod 8080. So quickly we should be able to access that. Okay. 8081. So we have a cool welcoming UI for Artifactory. It will take few seconds to get it up. Till then, let me quickly copy my license, which I will need to install in Artifactory. Let me see logs, how it looks like. So it's taking a little bit longer than usual to start Artifactory. So just few more seconds. Okay. Okay, and for Artifactory is up and running. So now I will just install the license here. So our license is installed, Artifactory is up and running. Now, okay. So now I will follow just these steps. So basically I have to exec into Artifactory container. and install this plugin to support Artifactory as a Helm repository. So I have my cheat sheet ready. Basically, I will just copy and paste the commands, going into the container, moving to plugins directory of Artifactory. Okay. So now first I will download the plugins. Basically, for downloading the plugin I have, and I will be using curl command. Okay, so my plugin is there. Now it has one dependency on YAML, the YAML bin. So I will just download that as well. Okay. Now as Artifactory, you can reload the plugin using REST API. So I'm using this command to reload the plugin, and it's showing that plugin got loaded successfully. So now I'm ready to use Artifactory as a Helm repository. So what I will do now, I will go ahead and create a remote repository in Artifactory. It will be of type generic. I will name it as a Helm remote, and I need to point it to your Kubernetes, basically a URL where Kubernetes will store all the Helm charts. So I'm just putting this. I have tested it, so it's working fine successfully. Now going to artifact, I will just use set me up, basically copy the repository URL. So for Helm and to test Helm, I have a Minikube running. So instead of Kubernetes cluster, I am using Minikube cluster. You can see my Minikube is running.
All right, great, thanks.
Let me find out who's not muted. Hang on.
Okay, so can I continue?
Yes, go ahead and continue.
Yeah, sure. So as you can see, my Kubernetes, basically Minikube is up and running. I have Helm installed. So basically, I will just run Helm to initiate the tailor in Kubernetes cluster. I have that up and running. So now next thing, let me add Helm repo, and I will say repo Artifactory and point it to my Artifactory. So it will be URL of my Artifactory.
So Dinesh, we've got about 2 more minutes.
Okay. Yeah, I will be done quickly.
Okay.
Yeah, so now we have added the repo. We'll do Helm repo update. So then Artifactory, and you go back to Artifactory, then you will see that, in Helm cache, it has the cache, the index, okay, not yet. And once we do Helm, install Artifactory, that's MySQL. Basically, it will fetch the MySQL from Artifactory, and you will see here that in Artifactory it has downloaded and cached. Come on, let's put the UI. Okay, let me try it with the Jenkins. Okay. Then basically it has download and install help all the charts in Kubernetes from Artifactory. You will be able to see all charts got installed. It's up and running, and it has fetched the archive for charts from Artifactory. So this is basically simple how you can use Artifactory as a Helm repository. Now going back to my slide, so in demo I display how to run Artifactory as a Docker container, install Artifactory user plugin to support Helm repo type in Artifactory. I've added Helm repo and install chart in Kubernetes, fetching it from Artifactory. So that's what we did today. And so in future we are planning to have specific repo as a Helm repository as a first class citizen in Artifactory. And as well, I have submitted a pull request to add Artifactory chart for Helm. So basically, users will be able to install Artifactory on Helm using a Helm install command. So that's pretty much it what I had to discuss. So if anybody have any questions, any comments.
Yeah, thanks very much, Dinesh. Does anyone have any questions? All right, well, we know how we can get a hold of Dinesh. Well, you can find me and I can point people to you, or Dinesh, if you want to add your contact info into the notes, that would be a helpful way that people get.
It's already on the slides. So here is the information. They can reach me on Twitter, on GitHub, and definitely I am there in basically Kubernetes Slack channel as well. So you can reach me out there as well.
All the ways to contact people. Awesome. All right. Thanks very much.
Yes. Thank you, guys. Thank you for joining.
All right. So on next to what we have on our agenda, 1.4.7. Jess, I think I saw you. Are you available to chat? Maybe it was a different Jess, or maybe Jess's microphone.
Oh, I'm here. I'm here. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
So 1.47 will be on December 8th. So just keep pinging me on cherry picks and I'll try to get them in. There was like some lint issues on that branch that are fixed now. So everything should start going through the queue again.
Anything else that you need help on, or anything specific that's happening in 1.4.7 that you want to talk about?
No.
Okay, cool. All right, well then we can go on to 1.5. Saad has a list of things.
All right, so 1.5 is scheduled for less than a week away. December 8th is the date we're expected to launch. Right now we have a total of 95 issues in the 1.5 milestone. Of those, 12 issues are considered release blocking. Most of them are getting the attention that they deserve. If you can, please go and take a look at those issues, see if there's anything assigned to you. Please give a status update daily for that. If you don't have a release blocking issue assigned to you, please see if you can help out with the release blocking issues. Beyond that, for testing, manual upgrade testing has been in progress. We discovered an issue with the upgrade script, which turned out that the upgrade script wasn't actually upgrading. So that testing has to be redone. Luckily, we found it in time and discovered the issue, so hopefully it will not cause the release to slip, but we're keeping an eye on that. Automated upgrade testing has been in the red as well. There was a breaking change made to kubectl that got merged. The fix for it got merged this week, so that should help a lot. And we'll keep an eye on that as well. SOAP testing is completely red right now. It needs attention. We're looking for volunteers. If anybody wants to jump in and take a look at this, that would be great. The other testing suites for Kubernetes 1.5 are looking good, just a few flakes. Most of those issues have been triaged. Any that are blocking are in the blocker list above. The branch status at the moment, master is open for general development once again. This means that any 1.5 changes that are going into master need to be cherry-picked. Please make sure to put the cherry-pick candidate label on your 1.5 PRs that are going into master. Otherwise, I might miss them. I'm doing nightly batch cherry picks at the moment, but that's no guarantee that your PR will get picked up. It is ultimately your responsibility to make sure that your PRs are getting cherry picked back to 1.5. So please make sure that happens. I pushed beta 2 last week, 1.5 beta 2. And possibly later this week or early next week, I might do a beta 3, depending on if there's a need for upgrade testing. And then hopefully we're going to go out on Thursday with the official release. Finally, docs and release notes. We set the deadline for docs and release notes as this past Tuesday. Most of the 1.5 features delivered on time. There are a couple that are still outstanding that were pending. I think DEDS 2K and Beeps had 2 outstanding issues. If you guys could take a look at that, that would be great. We're hoping to have all the docs PRs code reviewed and merged by end of day Friday. So if you have any feedback on any of your docs PRs, please address those. And if you're aware of any action items for the 1.5 release, there is a issue that keeps track of that. Actually, I'll paste that into the doc here. Please add your action items or known issues into that bug, and then Aaron Kreichenberger, who's preparing the release notes, will add those issues into the release notes. There's a draft of the release notes that's out from Aaron at the moment. You can take a look at those. Other miscellaneous issues related to 1.5 release, the infrastructure currently, the test infrastructure has been having issues. It's caused the submit queue to be blocked. Most of the issues with the continuous integration have been resolved, but there seem to be issues with the pull request tests. So we've seen cases where the pull request tests will be all green, but the submit queue won't pick them up, or some tests just simply refuse to run. If you're having issues like that, the current recommendation is to rerun the individual test that's currently blocked. Don't rerun the whole suite, because that'll overload the test infrastructure. And if you are really having issues, ping the test infra maintainers team on your PR. Just CC Kubernetes/test infra maintainers. And if you want any more details, we're holding burn down meetings starting next week. It'll be daily. The link to the notes is in the doc as well.
There is also a Google group that you can join to get the calendar invitation if you want that, and I believe it's in the burn down notes.
Yes.
Anything else? We're good. All right. 1.5, thank you as always, Saad and Caleb, for doing all the work that they've been doing to get the release out. This started as a one-person job and is rapidly becoming a team effort, so thank you.
Call out Dims too. He's been
Dims,
very
yes.
helpful.
Yes, Dims has been very helpful as well, so thank you. Which, because we continue on forward even as we are releasing things, the next topic is 1.6. So next week we're reviewing the SIG self-assessments that we requested before KubeCon. We've got 4 different SIGs that have agreed to come chat about what their thoughts are on the SIG self-assessment questions. We're trying to determine if 1.6 is focused as a stabilization release, and so far people have been very positive about it. So that is what the whole idea behind this is. So next week we will have the self-assessment talks. If there are other SIGs that want to participate, please just line up and put your SIG name in the notes for next week. All right. Anyone else have anything they want to say on stabilization? Other than stabilization means not many new features. Taking features that already exist in alpha to beta and beta to GA would be fine, but not new stuff. Or limited new stuff. All right. Then Brian, who is hiding behind the camera, wants to talk about GitHub issue management and notifications.
Yeah. So there was a thread on this on Kubernetes Dev, Kubernetes PM, and Kubernetes Contributor Experience Working Group mailing list. Catch up there for the full details. But after 1.5, we're going to make a bunch of changes to how issues and PRs are managed to make the project more manageable and get the issues and PRs under control. One thing we're going to do is create labels for every SIG. So a number of existing labels will be converted where appropriate, and new labels will be created as necessary. Some of the team and area labels, for example, will be changed. The priority labels are going to be made more changed from numbers to strings that people understand, like critical urgent for P0, things like that. We're going to try to make sure that all parts of the code map to some SIG, so tests, docs, directories, and so on, to make it easier to automatically assign SIG labels. For issues, we'll probably add it to the template and automatically set labels from the issued template. And anybody who's in the Kubernetes org will probably be forced somehow, maybe by auto-closing issues that don't fill it in, to actually specify one or more appropriate SIGs, so we can triage as many issues up front, or what we call route issues as much as possible up front when they are filed. Because we have a lot of the preponderance of issues are actually filed by us, and we're just creating more work by not correctly routing them when they're created. There are a bunch of other things about curating the sets of labels. We have a bot actually that will copy the labels around to selected repos if we need the same labels in multiple repos. That bot is currently disabled while we rearrange all the labels. In addition to fixing the labels, we also need to get notifications under control, because it's completely impossible to follow notifications on the project for most people now, I think. So the idea is to create more targeted teams, GitHub teams, for notifications, so that different kinds of notifications can be sent to different subgroups of people. For example, bugs, features, requests, proposals, PR reviews, and API reviews can have distinct notifications. And so that people who are not in the GitHub org can follow the notifications, will mirror these into Google Groups. I think that's the bulk of the high-level description. Like I said, for the details, please see the mailing list. If you are willing to help implement this stuff, please reach out, respond to the thread, or send me email.
Awesome. Thank you. Much progress. The labels thing is something that I know Garrett started on a while ago, and it's awesome to see it come to fruition. All right, up next on our agenda, does anyone have any discussion on this other than more Go Team contributor working group or contributor experience working group? No more discussion. Okay, cool. Thank you, and thank you, Dims, for dropping the timeline into the chat. That's awesome. We'll put that into the notes as well. All right, then Ihor and Aparna are talking about 1.5 and what we are going to be putting forward as the feature, the exciting features. What is 1.5 features?
Sure, actually, Ihor, I think if he's online, he's gonna kick us off.
All right.
Yeah, I'm online, so I can share my screen with the Debrief slides to get in this stuff that they have prepared. So after this brief report to get in what's happened with 1.5 release, with the features of 1.5 release. So just a brief recap. So we have started our iteration on September 19. The feature freeze has happened on October 10. Feature freeze means that before this date, everybody was allowed to propose a new feature for this iteration. After this date, no new features are accepted, except of like some exceptional one with some specific process. So November 7 is the deadline for development, for active development of features. And after this date, the bug fixing and stabilization process happened. November 19 is the date when beta releases. And we're expecting the general availability of 1.5 on December 8. So this is the slide that has been copied from the initial session of Plan in 1.5. So you may notice the main features that have been discussed during that session and being proactively like going ahead. So most of these features have been implemented in 1.5. So you may find all the features that are targeted in 1.5 on GitHub in the features repo. You may simply sort them with 1.5 milestone and you will find all of them. If you're going to filter these features regarding the stage that they're targeting, so alpha, beta, or stable, you can use also the labels. The labels are pre-created and all the features are labeled with their targeting label. Also, as you remember, so I've been maintaining the feature tracking spreadsheet during the previous release, and I also did that during this release, and I'm appreciated by the help of community to populate that stuff. So we have the features tracking spreadsheet that includes all the features that tracks all the features that have to be included into this release. We also have here also release note descriptions and stats. Thanks for SIGDocs team for that help. And yeah, so in general, we have 26 new features. There are 12 alpha, 9 beta, and 5 stable features. The most notable features that we have in this release that stateful sets that are targeting beta. We also have the new user implementation from SIG-Node. The new user implementation targets an alpha state. We have lots of new features from Federation that like reflects the actual state of this product, this project as like really solid and being much more important in Kubernetes itself. We have also chase setup for master implemented, and I don't know why there is no link. Well, so we have also Windows support implemented by Prenda and SIG Windows.
Ihor?
Yes.
Could we describe the CRI in terms of something that's relevant to users? Like, does it enable anything in particular, like upstream rocket support or something? It's not a feature.
Well, is there anybody from SIG-Node who has been working on this feature and can describe this with more details?
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, I think it's, it is very important, but it's worth thinking about how we can describe it in terms that will, at least at some point, have impact to users.
Yeah, that's probably a valid point. I don't know. From my perspective, I thought we always said that something needed to go into the features repo if it was something you were going to brag about or blog about. And here, the idea is we're setting the stage for container runtime abstraction, and we're just sort of slow rolling this. We're doing this right now for Docker, but it's going to enable more things later. So it seems like it's something worth calling out to cluster operators that it's a notable change in how things are operating, even though it doesn't necessarily provide anything to an end user who is running their applications on Kubernetes right now. Right?
Yeah, I'm not saying we shouldn't mention it, that we just need to
reframe it.
Yeah, just reframe it.
Okay. Yeah, so in coming back, so that were like the most notable features that we have defined during the product management recap session that happened at the beginning of this week. So feel free to suggest your thoughts regarding this. Also, we had, so speaking about like the next, what's going on next for the next iteration. So we had 2017 roadmap session at Kubernetes Dev Summit, where we have briefly described our goals for 2017, and the partner and I are going to present this stuff on the next community meeting on the next week. And also, I'm expecting to receive some feedback during 1.5 retrospective meeting. I hope we'll have it in the nearest time. So I'd like to hear some feedback regarding this process and how can we re-implement it, make more perfect in the future. Yeah, that's mostly all from me.
Excellent. Aparna, did you want to add anything? No? We're good?
Yeah.
Fantastic. So this leads me, I don't know how you teed this up quite so perfectly for me, Ihor. This leads me to the question of when do we want to do our 1.5 retrospective? We generally have done them 2 weeks after launch on a Friday. How are we at an 80% confidence rate on the 8th, Todd?
75%.
75% confidence rate for the 8th, okay. Because 2 weeks after the 8th on a Friday is actually the 23rd, which is not cool. So I'm thinking that we might want to pull that in and either do it on the 22nd. Oh wait, I'm not actually even in the, oh no, I will be on the 22nd. On the 22nd at the Kubernetes community meeting on that Thursday, we could do it that day. I think waiting until after the break loses us a lot. What does anyone else think on this? 22nd? Does anyone care?
I'm thumbs up for the 22nd, and I'm happy to facilitate again if the community wants that.
Thanks, Jason. Your facilitation has been great fun. Anybody else? Okay.
Well, just a quick question. Where does the 22nd put us relative to the start of 1.6 or 1.6 release planning? I felt like the problem we had with the last release was that the retrospective and the planning process overlapped so much that it was unclear to me how much feedback from the retrospective actually made it into the next release.
Well, we are at some level starting the 1.6 planning already, and we can't do the retrospective until after we release. So we could pull it into Friday the 5th, Friday the 16th.
Might be too soon,
Might be too soon.
depending on if there's slip or not.
Yeah. With a 75% confidence rate on the 8th, I don't know that we could make a good case for the 16th.
22nd is fair.
We could also do earlier that week. But we already have this as a meeting, and my suspicion is we will run low on topics as everyone is rather more interested in heading to the holidays than thinking about what the Kubernetes community meeting topics will be on the 22nd. It's just a guess.
Can we take that slot, that 10 a.m. on the 22nd?
Yeah, that's exactly what I'm proposing.
That'd be nice.
Okay. All right. Then I will make that the 22nd the retrospective for 1.5. That gets us a little bit more time, but not a lot, and hopefully we won't slip, and then we'll be good to go. Aaron, can you speak a little bit more about the feedback that you think hasn't necessarily made it back from the retrospective? And because when we did the retrospective of the retrospective, and Jason went through the 1.3 retrospective notes and talked through the 1.4 release, we actually had hit many of them. So I'm wondering 1.4 to 1.5 will do that as well, but go ahead.
I'm going to have to get back to you on that. Hopefully I can sort of start off the retrospective with that. But like, one thing for me is the features repo. As fantastic as Ihor's presentation was, if you click through almost any of the links that he's got there, or to any of the features that are in the 1.5 release, they have nothing checked off. And it's really difficult to tell like what was actually going on. And I thought we just discussed how like maybe that wasn't quite working, but we'd limp along with the spreadsheet again, and the spreadsheet has been wonderful yet again. But I really think we need to take a step back and figure out how we're going to continue to organize this stuff, because I don't think it's working at all. But the broader list of what didn't actually get addressed, let me get back to you on that.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, so some of the issues or the threads for contributor experience touched on this as well. We definitely need a much more concise template, and we actually need to require that stuff to get filled in and just auto close things that are not filled in, right? Like I think there are 3 or 4 fields that are absolutely necessary to fill in, and we should just trim it back to that and provide a document which explains the process in more detail rather than putting all that in the template.
Okay, so tune up on features repo and making sure, as we did last time, that we start the retrospective with a retrospective. Awesome. All right, we are short on agenda items today. So does anyone have any topics, or do we get 25 minutes back?
ask something that came up at 6 scale around the submit queue. There's a concern that the backlog in the submit queue is so large that basically the backlog represents the rest of 2016's work. I'm curious if there's anybody else on this call that feels that way. And sort of, I guess my ask is like, is there a concise description of what the list of priorities are, like how the submit queue decides what to merge in front of something else? Because I heard during like the burn down meeting and during 6 scale, the proposition of like, well, what if we just started bumping priority labels? And there was discussion at the release burn down meeting that this bumping of priority labels is getting in the way of like effectively cutting the 1.5 release. So is there like a list of rules we could go look at just to understand how this operates?
Good question.
Yes is the answer to the question.
I
You
love
go to the bot, you go to the page and go to the help tab. There's a tab that says ordering rules. And if you click on that, it will tell you the rules that the bot uses to determine order.
Snap, thank you. That is exactly the question.
I love that the answer is yes.
So where is that, Eric? I thought it used to be on an info tab.
Yeah. Oh, crap, went back on mute.
So,
yeah.
Yeah, it's on the info tab and then queue order.
Hi, this is Dims. There is a batch thing that went into submit queue a couple of days ago. Can somebody speak to that as well?
Nope.
That's what prompted the discussion in 6 scale. Is somebody had to like ask the bot to test things 17 times in order to get something to actually go in, and it's unclear like what the deal is.
Yeah, I did find a UI, but I don't know whether this is going to be the final resting place for this batch results. So from what I can see in that UI, there's like 3 or 4 PRs that get tested together at the same time, and then they get merged. So as yesterday, there was some ping saying, don't retest things that are in the batch queue, and I went hunting for it.
So back on to the topic of priorities, please do not abuse the priorities. There is a PR, I think, that is open, or an issue at least, or something about favoring milestone over priority. I think it's already the case that milestone is favored over things without a milestone.
It goes priority first, then milestone with a date, then everything else.
Yeah, so things that absolutely need to be in 1.5 should be tagged with the 1.5 milestone. Please do not add priorities to anything else unless it actually needs a priority in order to get merged ever, right? So traditionally we've used priorities for doing things like breaking cycles of rebase hell for PRs. If we use priorities sparingly, then the right thing will happen, right? Things with 1.5 will get merged preferentially. Things that need to get bumped to the head of the queue so they don't need to be rebased again will get merged otherwise, and everything will be fine. Eventually, we have a backlog right now just because of the freeze. Once the backlog clears, we should be good again. But please do not game the priorities.
Yeah, also when, as Brian talked about earlier, as priority numbers change into names, that means that those names will have no impact on the submit queue. So the issue that I linked was the one he just mentioned, talking a little bit about what should the ordering be, has a tiny bit of discussion about, as we move into a name world, what names make sense for PRs versus issues, because Brian's discussion has been largely around issues.
Yeah, but I think priorities or names for PRs would also be useful. Like, if we put this PR has been rebased too many times or something like that, then we can control the policy. People provide the information and we control the policy.
Yeah. I submitted it on that issue that I just linked over in chat for people who care, some names that made sense to me, but likely those aren't the names that actually make sense.
Thanks, Eric.
Okay. I want to jump back to Joe's comment in the chat if we're done with PRs and queues and submits and priorities and batching and fun. Okay, so Joe asked on the topic of feature releases versus stable bug fix releases, have we really done any long discussion on this in the Node.js community? It's gone to a model of even number releases being stabilization. We have sort of tried to, with some success, do that, and that is the plan and the idea around the 1.6 release being a stabilization release as well, is moving to that sort of model so that we are making sure that we are moving features through alpha, beta to GA, making sure that we're doing work that pays down technical debt and that we are listening to our users that they want things that are long-term stable and maintainable. So we have had some discussions about that at varying points. We've not been pedantic about it or restrictive about it. It's been it's an open source community. You can try to put in whatever you want in featured, but the target is that even numbered releases are stabilization releases. So that's why we set out these questions to the SIGs. The SIGs then do a self-assessment of where they feel they are. As an example, SIG storage did a lot of work off-cycle and put big changes in 1.3 and yes, I did that right. Okay, 1.3, put a lot of big changes in 1.3 and took 1.4 and 1.5 and did a bunch of stabilization work in that because they needed the work done. So, you know, the SIGs are where the control for these feature choices are happening. So that's why we've asked them to do a self-assessment of where they are and if they think that this needs to be a stabilization release for the different SIGs. That answer your question enough, Joe?
Yeah, thanks, Sarah. That answers my question. I heard a comment about 1.6 potentially being a stable release, and it's, you know, as we look ahead, you know, we should discuss whether that's something we want to formalize, you know, more concretely or not. Our experience with enterprise customers is, you know, the stability is really becoming more important than some of the features as they're moving production clusters and in many cases several production clusters. So yeah, so thanks, you answered my question.
I'll say I'm really concerned about this every other release being a stabilization release, just even as a concept. I mean, every release has to be stable. What we're setting ourselves up for is if we start saying every other release is a stabilization release, we're just cutting out huge chunks of people who are going to say, oh, well, odd numbered releases, I'm not even going to consider using it. And I think this as a concept needs to be pretty carefully discussed.
Yeah, if I can just weigh in there, nobody is committed to anything like that. Nobody is saying that every other release is unstable. Absolutely no position whatsoever. This just so happens that in 1.6, and let me use this as a moment to plead to everyone, please do take the time over the next week to talking to the SIGs that you care about and things like that to make sure that everyone is comfortable with what's coming in 1.6, that there aren't any major features missing, but our goal is to really minimize the number of new features. So to your point, Bob, no one is saying that every other release is going to be unstable. All we're saying is that in 1.6, we are taking some time to do some stabilization, to move some things from alpha, beta, and forward. But we are a community. If we decide that we need to do this again in the future, we're more than open to that. No one is saying anything here, basically.
I have a couple of comments. One is we need some mechanism, and this may not be the best one, and I'm open to talking about other possible, some mechanism to force everybody to spend more time on project health issues that have been neglected for a long time. And if, you know, the easiest way is to say we're not taking any new features in a release, then that's what we'll do. If there's a better way, we'll do that. But we get feedback from a lot of engineers on the project from multiple companies that they have a lot of pressure to deliver features and they don't have mechanisms to push back on their management about that. So we need to provide some kind of stick that they can say, well, look, there's nothing I can do. I have to do this in order to get our features in eventually. The other thing is we need to create some breathing room for all the leads to not have to just review feature proposals all the time. So we either need to rate limit the number of features that can go into every single release, or we need alternation or something like that. Otherwise, we can easily spend 100% of our time just entertaining proposals.
Just for clarity, and I know that those of you who have heard me make comments on this before know I'm being consistent on this, which is I think every release needs fewer features and more stability.
I agree with that.
So.
We just need to figure out a mechanism to enforce that.
Agreed. And again, no one is saying that this is the pattern going forward. All we're saying is that we're taking 1.6. Let's just be very pragmatic. Let's take 1.6. Let's focus on that. In this case, we're going to do a lot of the things that Brian just described to kind of find our footing again, and then move forward.
I like the idea.
For taxonomy, can we just say hardening instead of stabilization? Because I feel like there's an inherent amount of stabilization that's necessary for it to even pass the test necessary to get promoted into the branch. So hardening sort of is more, we're trying to make it a more robust feature as opposed to a non-functional or a functional feature.
Yeah, I think the language may be what we're stumbling on here more than, so maybe it's a feature release versus a non-feature release, where feature is user-facing. Well, anyway.
I think we all agree that naming is hard.
Yeah.
Let's try not to do it here and use up 50 people's time.
100% agree. All right. Anything else that we need to cover? Let's check the chat quickly.
Just to put a voice to what we were talking about in chat, I think that Clayton suggested, like, if we could focus on what core is and then say that core is the thing that gets hardened. This allows us to enable more people to develop their features outside of core on their own. And we've already kind of done this in the large with the Kubernetes incubator organization and projects that go in there, right? So it's unclear what's the difference between a project and a feature. And if we more clearly define what core is, maybe that helps us sort of enable the same model in the small. And then there's like by tightly defining core, that's the thing that's got to be rock solid and stable. That doesn't necessarily mean your feature has to be rock solid and stable. Anyway, just to put that out there.
A bit of summary, thank you. And Josh reminds me very graciously that an ask to anyone who took notes at the Kubernetes Summit, please contribute them to the community repo and we'll start linking them all together. Because Josh, you are correct, I have not gotten around to pulling them all out of mail. I think most of them got sent in email to one mailing list or another, but I haven't had time to pull them all out. So if you took notes at the Developer Summit, please put them into the community repo and we will organize them up there.
So we had a huge session on, or we had 2 sessions on roadmap planning, and Ihor has the notes. We're planning to present them at the meeting next week, and then we'll put them in.
Yep, that works. All right.
Yeah, we actually have discussed it with Josh yesterday in Slack. So Josh required some like raw notes, so I'm going to share them with him, and we also share the polished and ready to use for the people version on the next community meet.
Perfect. All right. Anyone else have topics or notices? All right. See you all next week, where we get to hear the 2017 planning work that happened at the Dev Summit and hear more about 1.5. All right, talk to you soon.